Tyron Woodley versus Darren Till. Now, what really happened in this fight? Shocking to some, a one-sided fight where Tyron Woodley really took over. His experience showed throughout the fight. People always knew him as this powerful wrestler with an overhand right who's very explosive. But being a veteran at the game, having the experience that he has, fighting veterans like Robbie Lawler and Stephen Thompson and Damian Maia, and has been fighting since Strikeforce, fought in the middleweight division. Things like Darce chokes, things that you don't normally see from Tyron Woodley, he's going to have in his back pocket if it ever presents itself because of all that experience he has developed throughout the years. And for a young guy like Darren Till, 25 years old, is undefeated, has won a lot of fights, but is relatively new to the top of the division, he really only came out with one type of skill set. The thing we always see him do. Long southpaw stance, always like to dart in, and always ends his combinations with the left hand. His right hand is only there to distract or set up the left hand, and that is really it. His kicks are to trap the opponent in space, very similar to what Conor McGregor does to line up his left hand. But Darren Till, when he was throwing his left hand in this fight, which he only threw it twice in the fight, it was meant to commit and meant to hurt Woodley, but the setups were a little different. Now, we have to know the game plans of these two, and we do know them. Darren Till's game plan was to feel out the first round, make it slow, get the timing, and more specifically and more important, the range of the right hand of Woodley. He knew Woodley would want to counter him, right? Woodley always goes for the counter when he's moving back. Counter right overhand, usually. He caught Stephen Thompson doing this. He caught Josh Koscheck a while ago doing this. And he even caught Damian Maia with a right uppercut. So he's always looking for that right counter as the opponent comes in on him. So Darren Till wanted to find the range of that because when he finds the range, he usually has a lot easier of a time. He's really good at moving back and countering with the left hand. So looking at his footwork in the first round, it really seemed like he was trying to move in on Woodley and get him to throw the right hand, and then he would move away and download that data. Remember what Woodley just did there, right? So if I move in this direction, if I move in this quickly, Tyron Woodley's going to react, and that's what I want him to do. So eventually I want to get him to do that. A couple times in the first round, he was able to utilize that kind of footwork. And his game plan concluded that he will go for the finish in the second and third round. He wanted to feel out the first and then eventually put out all of his power in the second and third and eventually catch Woodley, confident that he would be able to figure out Woodley. That was Darren Till's game plan. And the only punch he was looking for was that left hand, the thing he throws in every single fight. He didn't mix it up to disguise something, to trick Woodley in there. Now, we know what Tyron Woodley's game plan is as well. Tyron Woodley's game plan was, simply put, I'm going to wait for him and punch with him. Wait back, wait for Darren Till to come in on him, and whenever he comes in, Tyron Woodley was going to punch with him, and he was confident in one technique that he said he drilled for this fight. Quoted by Tyron Woodley over and over again, he was training for this specific technique. He would move back, dip to his left as he's throwing the right overhand as a counter, waiting specifically for Darren Till to move in on him. That was what he drilled over and over again, and it worked in this fight. So, when you look at these two game plans colliding together, Darren Till figuring out the first round, right? He wasn't going to commit, which is what Tyron Woodley was waiting for. Tyron was waiting for Darren Till to commit on him, which Till didn't do in the first round. So, looking at that, Tyron Woodley was not going to catch Till in the first round. Darren Till's game plan resulted in him committing fully in the second round or in the third. So whenever Darren Till committed, Tyron Woodley was going to potentially counter him whenever it happened. And now the biggest thing is, Darren Till was looking for his left hand, and Tyron Woodley was looking to counter Darren Till's left hand. That in itself, right there, that simple collision of game plans is a bad formula for Darren Till. He was looking for something Tyron Woodley was looking to counter. He didn't know a trap was there. He didn't know what Tyron Woodley was looking for. So when you look at all that together, the collision, the damage was going to be whenever Darren Till came at Woodley. That was when the damage was going to happen. Now, what we have to look at is the technical flaws and the correct technique used from these two. What did Darren Till do? You saw his footwork in the first round. It was very different than what he did to commit on Tyron Woodley. He went in on him, he kind of maneuvered his arms around, especially his lead hand, and he moved it down under Tyron Woodley's hands, and then he found a target up the middle. It was almost like a lead uppercut, but it was more of a jab than anything. So he throws that out there, but he's measuring his left hand. But he miscalculated his distance. When he threw that jab out there, and Tyron Woodley pulled on the punch, very slight but precise pull by Tyron Woodley, which is moving back on the punch to the point where you're making it extend further. And when you make it extend further, you're causing the opponent to move a little closer into you, and then the pull is usually followed up by a counter shot, usually the power hand. This is something Floyd Mayweather in boxing has perfected, and Tyron Woodley showed great pulling technique in this fight. So he pulled on the jab of Darren Till, but then Darren Till actually made two mistakes here. Darren Till's jab got pulled into maximum distance from Tyron Woodley's slip, but then he resumed to come in even closer. He got even closer to Woodley after that. For his left hand, miscalculated his distance. If you look at where his jab is, where his lead hand is in front of Woodley, this is enough distance for Darren Till to land the left hand. Because your power hand actually reaches further than your jab hand because of the fact that you are leaning off the back foot, going on the ball of the foot, which makes you lean further forward. And as the hips and shoulders rotate that direction, you're ultimately reaching further. But Darren Till went too far in. He kept going at Woodley. He kept following through to the point where he got into Woodley's power range, which being a slightly longer fighter, he didn't really need to do that. He didn't need to get in the shorter fighter's range to land his long left hand. That was one mistake. And the other mistake was Darren Till kept his head still. He kept his head in a very linear path, right? He slightly took off on the right side to get the outside foot, but his head was not moving anywhere. His whole body was still, and it moved one direction, enough for Tyron Woodley to easily target the head. And something that was very impressive from Tyron Woodley is Darren Till actually got the outside foot when this happened. He moved his foot on the outside when he threw that jab. So it's very similar to what Conor McGregor did. Conor McGregor against Max Holloway, I recommend you guys all watch that fight. Conor was doing a very similar technique where he was getting his foot on the outside of Max Holloway's, and then he would throw a right uppercut. It was more of an uppercut than a jab like Darren Till's. He would throw more of a right uppercut and get more so on the outside with his head. And then he would throw the left cross down the middle. Or left straight down the middle. Darren Till got his foot on the outside when he threw that jab. And Tyron Woodley did go to parry the jab of Darren Till, but Till got it a little too close for the parry to be effective. But that lead hand on the outside that Tyron Woodley utilized also kind of kept Darren Till in that close space. He didn't allow Darren Till to move his entire body on the outside. And the thing that I'm saying why this is impressive, it is very hard to pull and then slip on your left when you don't have the outside foot. That is a very hard thing to do. And he was able to get his punch on the inside as Darren Till was throwing a straight. And he didn't even have the outside foot. Everything Tyron Woodley did in there was all super close. Everything was narrow. Able to get an overhand right, as well as slip on his left, and get everything on the inside of Darren Till's lead leg and his left hand. That is super impressive by Tyron Woodley. And inside shots usually will beat the punches that come on the outside. And Tyron Woodley, the fact that he slipped on his left with this right overhand, which is a natural movement, he's going to get away from the left hand completely. Darren Till, when he came in, he didn't have his hands up at all. His right hand was completely down, even though it didn't matter a whole lot. But the defensive responsibility wasn't there from Darren Till. To be honest, even if he kept his hands up, even if he kept his chin down, he was going to get caught like this because he got caught down the middle. And then, as we all know with Tyron Woodley, when he landed the ground and pound, he continuously landed that, and then he eventually found the Darce choke because Darren Till kind of gave up that position when he was trying to grab the underhook and half guard, very similar to what Damian Maia always does. But Maia is always good at standing up through this or reversing the position. Till wasn't that far ahead in the BJJ, but he had a good underhook. He was able to keep somewhat position, but ultimately he was under Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley had a strong base on top of him, able to land hard elbows. This is coming straight from wrestling. Hard elbows. And to get a Darce choke like that for a small fighter like Tyron Woodley compared to Darren Till, that is quite impressive because Darce chokes are usually made for guys with longer arms or guys bigger than the opponent. For a smaller guy to do that on the bigger opponent, that is also very impressive. Tyron Woodley is for real. He is one of the greatest right now. In the pound for pound rankings, he's going to have to move up 100% after this kind of performance. Technically, and he finished a young guy that a lot of people thought was going to win this fight. Darren Till was the favorite coming into this one, and Tyron Woodley shut that all down. Tyron Woodley has shown to be probably the smartest fighter in the UFC, or at least one of them. With all the different styles of opponents he is beating, you have to give it to the guy. So that's the breakdown, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe. For my next video, it's going to be my podcast. That's going to come out on Tuesday. So be lookout for that. I'm going to leave in the community tab questions for podcasts or something like that for you guys to reply under. And you guys can ask me questions for my podcast on my Twitter account, which is going to be in every description box. So you guys can click on that, but make sure to hashtag MMA meeting when you guys tweet it to me, or it will get lost. I don't want you guys' questions to get lost. So make sure to do that if you guys have any questions at all regarding combat sports. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.